So we've talked about reducing neurological stress, bringing stability to the spine, which causes the reduction in neurological stress, taking pressure off the brainstem, taking pressure off the brain, and also we're protecting these joints of the spine and causing the body to move with better functional movement patterns. So this makes sense muscle balance wise and joint pain wise, preventing arthritis and injury, bringing just more stability overall to the whole body because we're moving more functionally and better. But what other implications could we have with this? One example we might have is looking at the connection between wisdom teeth and balance. And why do we have to get these wisdom teeth removed? That's the question I'm going to talk about here a little bit. So the first thought I had about this was a while ago when I had shingles, and then it was on the left side of my face. It started base of my occiput. And then I had wisdom teeth impacted on my left side. And I was going to get surgery and get those removed. And my wife put pressure on my head one time because I was just in a lot of pain, my head down. Like, it just hurts so bad. I can't wait to get the surgery done. And once you put the pressure there, pain went away. So I'm like, and then it came back pretty much almost immediately after she took the pressure off. So what I did is I loaded a backpack full of my old school books. I put one of the straps just over my head and just lifted up, and that took the pain away immediately. I really had no idea why this was. I just thought maybe it was just distracting me. But then I noticed if I did that for a while, like I would actually wash the dishes. It was like so nice to wash the dishes and just be out of pain because, I just figured all the pain was in the nerve there. But for some reason, just rebalancing the structure of the spine by activating these neck muscles, the neck flexors, the scalenes, and taking pressure off the neck extensors, that actually took away pressure off the nerve. So what is the point of wisdom teeth, and why are we just removing them is my question, because I ended up not getting them removed because the more I did that, the more I noticed I would be out of pain for a while. The more stronger and more balanced I got my neck, the more the impacted tooth pain went away. That was very strange, and that was almost 2 to 3 years ago. So I've had some time to think about it since then. And some of the studies I've been looking at here, you see that the spheno-occipital synchondrosis, which is different. It's not a fibrous joint, so there's actually some play between these two joints. Why these joints are so important, and they're even taught about in chiropractic, that they have a little more movement, very slight movement than other cranial bones. Obviously the jaw is very movable, but other cranial bones are very fibrous, not much play involved there, unless you're getting hit really hard. But the spheno-occipital, I think we have a picture here, actually helps pump. Where is that picture? Right here, that's the synchondrosis there. So we got the sphenoid kind of sitting above the nasal cavity, and the occiput, where the foramen magnum comes out. That's your brain stem. You can see it better there. That's where your spinal cord goes through. So right about there is that joint. This is your sphenoid bone. Sphenoid in Latin means butterfly because it kind of looks like a butterfly. So these two actually help pump cerebrospinal fluid up and down your spinal cord when you're walking, when you're ambulating, that you get some motion there. That's good because cerebrospinal fluid brings and bathes the nerves with nutrients. It's also adding a protective layer. Your whole brain is enclosed with cerebrospinal fluid to help prevent impact injuries from taking their toll on the brain. You have the skull, but then you have this very intelligent cushioned layer. It's like back in medieval times when they had that battering rams hitting the walls. They put like another layer in there of either sand and then another wall, or a wood wall, and that would just absorb the shock better than just having one solid layer. So the body's pretty intelligent, but if that cerebrospinal fluid is not being pumped, we get stagnation, right? Anytime we hear of stagnation, we're just prone to infection. It's never good. It's movement is life. When a river is flowing, it's fine. When a pond is sitting there, it's stagnant. That's when we get the E. coli. We see stuff like that, junk in the algae. So this joint, it decays right along. These two studies look at it decaying right along. They use it to just gauge your age with the cervical vertebrae and the third molar mineralization. If people still have their third molars, those are your wisdom teeth. So maybe the wisdom of wisdom teeth is don't be dumb enough to remove them, because they might be helping you out. They might be balancing out your posture somehow. Like maybe they're waiting in the ranks for something to go wrong. So we all have injuries. Like me, I really injured my right foot. So maybe my left one's appeared to help balance something out, bring me balance into my structure. So because we always wonder I always thought like maybe they were just, in case you lost all your teeth, your wisdom teeth would appear later on, so you had something to chew with. And definitely later, people are starting to look at getting, we just constantly, they're like appendixes, it's better safe than sorry. Gallbladders, just take them out. Wisdom teeth, let's just take them out. And there's not much, because there's no need for them, right? That's their thought processes. Anyone who kind of views the body like I do, it's like there's got to be a reason. It's like it bothers me. There's got to be a reason. It's like the last thing you want to do is remove something. That's how I felt. But you're in so much pain, it's impacted. It's like, oh yeah, maybe just best to get them out. And you hear the horror stories. They might develop cysts in the jaw and everything. So I'm not saying don't get your wisdom teeth taken out if they're impacted. I'm just saying maybe this is something we should start thinking about a little bit more if you're like me and you want to keep your body parts. So I did find some people who are into this. They actually have these little inserts, which they call rectifiers. I'm like, I was looking at it right there. I'm like, that's right where the wisdom teeth are. Maybe that's what they're designed to do, to help correct these postural things. And one thing we see in this, so many people, and I've started asking all my patients, what I love about having all these patients, especially ones with MS or like neurodegenerative disorders like Parkinson's, where the balance is going, where there's demyelination. They all have these very strong extensor muscles, and this is what we call head extension, where the head's getting pulled back into extension, eyes are tilted upwards, and we get the pelvis shifting forward naturally. You can see how that's tilted almost posteriorly compared to the right side there. I don't know if my face is in the way, but it never shows me my face, so I don't know if my face is in the way. So, and that pushes those hips too forward, so we're a little off center. You can see how the shoulder is now behind. We're here at some line. Everyone, when I talk to you guys, you're always like, I want your ear, shoulder, hip relatively in a straight line. Hip slightly forward, that's okay. When we got the hip and the ear and the shoulders way back here, major kyphotic curve, and then these upper traps, levator scapula. And the big one, you don't really think about, is that SEM is actually, because it runs from the clavicle here, this guy is a big neck extensor. And what's interesting about those two, the upper traps and the SEM, is they have the same nerve, and it's a cranial nerve. So we're looking at the sphenoid and the occiput, very close to the brainstem. The wisdom teeth also very close to the brainstem. We have all these cranial nerves coming out, and especially the vestibulocochlear nerve, which is your balance center. I think we got a picture here just of some of the nerves there. Yeah. So there's the vestibulocochlear nerves. You got your facial nerve very close. This is your brainstem. You can see some of the other nerves. The spinal accessory nerve here we're talking about, or just accessory nerve. That's 11 is going to the SCM. It's going to the upper traps. And you guys hear me talk about the parasympathetic state and the sympathetic states. That's the stress mode. That's the protector. It raises the shoulders, kind of guards your neck. I mean, we got the jugulars in here. We got, there's a lot of important things in the neck, obviously. Dogs and wolves will automatically go for someone's neck and face because they know. That's why they say guard your neck. So they'll grab right for the throat because instinctually they'll just take you down. They'll take a deer down that way. So if you're fighting a dog, protect your neck. was I going with that? So yeah, if we're chronically in this fight or flight stage, other things are, like I'll talk about digestion, gets put on the back burner, immune system, it's all related to itself, and then just the stress posture. And it's kind of like the chicken or the egg thing. What's causing all this to begin with? Is correcting the mechanical stress going to help everything else? And I think so. And also it could be the other way, some sort of injury that's causing that stress to begin with. Maybe stress is causing the posture, or maybe the posture is causing the stress. Either way, you should correct them all. And maybe we can't handle the circumstances we're in, but we can always change and alter our posture and strengthen the muscles that are weaker. So neck extension is very overdeveloped, and that's causing this posture here. Now, if we cause something that would help correct that, that's very interesting. I haven't read into too much how this works. And if you don't have your wisdom teeth anymore, I would maybe look into something like this. You can see that head extension there, leveled out 3 years later, looking much better in the curvature. Even left to right, balancing out, some of the paraspinals there. Pelvis isn't as bad. A lot of this stuff looks kind of sketchy to me. You never know, but it's just something to think about, and it kind of makes sense to me that if we don't have our teeth lining up correctly, if there's these issues, that maybe the wisdom teeth are designed to actually do something like that. So maybe you guys can look at some of these websites, rectifiers, where they are here. And obviously they look a little bit like teeth to me. Advanced physical therapy, she talks about this postural restoration and just movement, and how the teeth are like this somatosensory organ almost. It's very interesting stuff. There's definitely got to be some truth there. One thing, I spent some time in Africa as a kid on a missions trip to Tanzania, and what I noticed there is, and this is a study from Nigeria, how I think it's 9% had impacted third molars, the wisdom teeth, compared to Sweden had 65% impaction. And it was talking about the food differences that they just ate. Oh, sorry, it was Kenya, not Nigeria. I don't know what I was talking about. So Kenya actually, I believe, shares a border with Tanzania, so it was very close. So I was with a very similar culture. And that makes sense. They're just eating like more thicker fruits or mangoes or something like that. But what I noticed a lot of is what they were carrying things on their head. Everyone carried things on their head. It's just like their culture. I'd see guys carrying like tree stumps. Women would carry these 5-gallon buckets full of water to the brim on their head. And I'm like immediately like drawing a line. Like what helped me was putting a backpack on my head. And obviously it uses these muscles more. So maybe mom telling you to put the book on your head, maybe she wasn't far off. Maybe there is some truth there, because your head's here, you have to kind of lift up against that's resisting gravity, and that's kind of what foundation training is all about too. It's your using those weak flexors, and definitely the hip flexors too, because your foundation is actually very involved with how your head sits. The head does control everything. I see people's heads shift, the pelvis automatically has to shift. There has to be changes. Saying yin to the yang, it's always trying to stabilize. Why? So you don't fall over. Let's look at some more. So yeah, this is a synchondrosis. You have a couple of those in your body. The ribs are one where there is some slight amount of movement, and apparently we lose that as we get older. So maybe that degeneration has to do with not balancing the muscle. And maybe I'll come out with some more exercises to help this. One that I felt has really helped me, and because I can feel it in my teeth, I feel it in my jaw, is when I'm laying there on my back, hanging my head off, trying to keep it level, and just working those necks. I think in my last video I actually showed that exercise. So maybe I'll return to that one. I'll spend some more time on that one also. I haven't done the backpack thing since, carrying that on my head. I did it for a while when I had the impacted tooth. Something like that could probably work for you as well. But most of all, it's just doing these things daily, trying to get that lengthening. But maybe if you'd like to avoid running into trouble with your wisdom teeth. You could try some of this stuff. And the other question, and why I kind of dismissed this early on, is I'm like, how do we change the shape of the jaw? Like, you just can't create more room in the mandible for the wisdom teeth to appear. So I'm like, there's things that make sense, there's things that line up, but how is that happening? It does apparently change as we get older. And it's not like this wisdom tooth has been just decided to come up. It's obviously been working for sometimes a long time. So if there's been a change in your body, for me, I think it had something to do with the shingles. It might have just been one side was tensing up more than the other. So if it is right in my occipital area that I'm getting these shingles here, that's right where my upper trap muscle is, and also SEM. So I just remember that those muscles were like so tight, so clenched. So if you have an imbalance in these muscles and they're just hyperactive, the wisdom teeth must somehow respond to that, because it was just months later that these wisdom teeth are fully in. And the right side, nothing. All right, neither of them are doing nothing. So it's a very interesting story. And we can see the angle changes here with age. Obviously, we're losing the teeth, so we're going to change in the angle, but this might be able to change something, and this might have something to do with some of the studies they've been doing. So if you don't have your wisdom teeth, I would look into something like that, but also just, you got to strengthen the muscles. I mean, you can try to wedge yourself all day long, but you still need to strengthen, and maybe that'll help you get there and help you hold that position better, more naturally. That's what chiropractic is all about, trying to remove those restrictions so you can hold yourself more naturally. But people, it's work. You gotta work on that stuff and strengthen yourself too. That's a big part of it. And I think if you're doing it early on, teach your kids, because they might actually be able to avoid having their wisdom teeth removed, and they might avoid a lot of the problems we're facing in our older generations today. I mean, it's just a guess, but like, what does it cost you to do some postural exercise and kind of change your functional movement? It doesn't cost you any money. It just costs you a little bit of mental learning, just retraining yourself. And then it actually saves you a lot of back pain and surgery. So this stuff is really cool. And I might be way off here. I might be just completely losing my mind. And I'm open to that, because we're talking about something strange here, like wisdom teeth. But it's just very interesting to me. And this is just one example out of many ways that if we're dealing with stress and muscle balance, how it can affect a lot of different things. And I like thinking about body parts that the medical community doesn't think we need. You know, just, you don't need those, we're gonna remove those. That's just some evolutionary thing that, Neanderthals had, so we're just gonna take it out now. I don't know, I think the body's smarter than that. So that's my thoughts there. Let's see if I didn't say anything. I'm sure you can look up any of these studies there. Just go back through the video if you want to look at any of them. There, you'll find the names. There's that company. I'm sure there's some other ones. I even remember like some people talking about this when I was in school. It's like you kind of dismissed it and like, what do the teeth have to do with anything? It's weird. But you never know. So I'll follow up with this video with some more exercises, how to strengthen your jaw, how to remove that stress, those hypertonic muscles, and maybe it'll help you out. All right.